What is going on, Team ProGuides, and welcome back to another video. My name is Nathan Ng, and today we'll be bringing you guys 3 champions that you should main in each role for patch 10.16. The champions that we picked out all have high carry potential and transition really well from patch to patch, so don't expect huge nerfs from them anytime soon. For our question of the day, what role would you like to see get buffed in the future? Personally, I would like to see the ADC role get buffed in a way that does make them super viable in solo lanes. Let us know in the comments down below what you guys think, or go ahead and join our Discord in the description down below and then discuss it with the great community. Before we get started, make sure to visit our website at ProGuides.com, where we have live group classes from top tier instructors such as Zyrene and Mike Young. There's even courses from your favorite pro players like Doublelift and Loco Doco. And with that all being said, let's go ahead and jump right into the video. We'll start off with KLED in the top lane. We know that we included this champion in our previous videos to main, but he is such an underrated pick.
Let's get him, Scarl!
I rarely ever see him get banned, and he matches up to all the meta picks right now like Renekton and Darius. This champion is the perfect pick whether you are blind picking or countering an enemy top laner because he is so versatile. The reason why he is so strong is due to the fact that many players in solo queue do not understand how to play around his cooldowns and dismount. Many players will think that they can finish off KLED, but in reality, you'll be baiting the enemy top laner into free stacks so you can remount and clean up the fight. And with that being said, if you ever find yourself about to dismount but all of your abilities are available, dash in with your E and bear trap on a rope mid jump, and once you get dismounted, your Q will still be on them, allowing you to instantly auto attack 4 times, and then shoot a point blank shotgun, allowing you to remount and use all of your abilities again. This is such an OP combo which happens many times during the laning phase, so let's abuse this and stomp solo queue. And if that wasn't enough for you to get into the KLED hype train, you can even control the pace of the game by engaging with your ultimate, whether it's a bot lane gank or just simply a late game team fight. Next up on the list we got KAYN.
The wicked shall fall!
This is a champion that you will not see recommended often due to the fact that she does not have the tools to demolish the early game. But with that being said, she is almost never banned, so you'll always get to experiment and learn how to play her in a variety of different matchups in the top lane. The name of the game here will be survivability, so running teleport and minimizing trades will help you reach the mid game where she can output a ton more. Your main objective is to reach level 11 and especially level 16, where you will transform into the monster that runs over teamfights really easily. A couple of tips that we have is try to let the enemies push you in the early game and then farm what you can with your E and Q. Try to hold the minion waves in front of your tower as long as possible and sustain with your corrupting potions, biscuits, and your W healing. Reset and purchase items before teleporting back to refresh your potions so you can continue farming up. Make sure that you can do everything within your power to never die, because even when you fall behind 30 to 40 CS, you can always catch up back with proper side laning. Lastly, don't be afraid to push and group at level 11 and force fights because that's her big spike. Otherwise, worst case scenario, you can always play for level 16 and become the transformer that we all wanted to become when we were little. Or is that just me? Cinch is definitely a champion that has a unique playstyle compared to every other champion in the game.
This may hurt.
He can run around pulling minion waves and deal a ton of damage at all stages of the game if he is left unchecked. Your objective is to find opportunities in the laning phase when somebody oversteps or tries to trade through waves and then fling them while running laps around them. You will notice in all of the engagements that you usually out-heal all the damage the enemy does to you by going Corrupting Potion, so abuse this to get an early G's kill or to snowball to the mid game. We want to point out that your build is usually very open on Singe, so don't feel pressured to lock in what we have down on the screen. However, the stable items that you'll want in any given build will always include Rallies and Liandry's, since their abilities synergize so well in his Poison Trail. During teamfights, abuse your passive by running through many targets while popping Righteous Glory to reach the enemy backline and then fling them back into your team. Many players will be caught off guard by this by giving your team opportunities to take important objectives off the map. For those of you guys watching who don't plan on piloting the Mad Chemist, make sure you just don't pilot him, don't pick him. For our first jungle pick, we are going to be selecting everybody's favorite, LUCIAN. Regardless of what the meta is, the blind monk always finds himself a way to be pulled back into it because of his versatility as a champion.
Strike first!
If you are a jungle main, LUCIAN will always be a staple pick to have in your back pocket if the time comes to pull him out. With this kit being loaded with plenty of early aggression, you will want to heavily impact lanes and pressure the enemy jungler, so you can secure a lead for your team transitioning into the mid game. Even if you fall off in the damage department in the mid and late game, you have all of the coveted insect that you can do and pull off on the enemy squishies. For those of you guys who don't know what an insect is, it's basically getting on top of the enemy squishies and getting behind them to kick them into your team. You go in with your Q and mid-transit with your Q, jump a ward behind them, and then jump to that with your W and then ult them back. There's many variations to doing this, but getting a challenger coach might be the most efficient way from ProGuides. Our advice to you is that when you are clearing is to auto-attack between your abilities while kiting to make sure that you get the best use of your attack speed bonus and clear speed. You don't always need to land your Q to force ganks, but instead holding onto it will create pressure, and you can jump in with your ward hop and then auto-attack with red and double E slow before even landing your Q.
Happy hour incoming!
Similarly to LUCIan, GRAGAS is another staple pick in the jungle because of his itemization, and it will always allow him to fit in the meta whether he is full tank, full AP, or even hybrid. His kit is very well designed to crowd control and output damage regardless of the situation in the game. If you want a solid blind pick, practice some GRAGAS and then get down to some basic combos. Whether you're using your E with an immediate flash to surprise the enemy gank, or displace everybody on the enemy team with their ultimate, you can never really go wrong with him. His runes and builds are always changing with the ever-shifting meta, so make sure you stay up to date with what the pros are running and adapt to change your style on him. While you are jungling, pay heavy attention to your passive and time your abilities with that to maintain high HP while clearing. Don't be afraid to use your E and then not flash to bait enemies from flashing away during early ganks and allow you to come back later and have a flash advantage to secure the kill. Last on our jungle pick is KAYN.
What does Rost mean anyway?
Obey.
This champion has two sides to him and can always be blind picked and solo queue for the most part. Your objective is to stack up your transformation by hitting enemies. If you hit ranged champions, you'll stack up blue faster, and if you hit melee champions, you'll be stacking the red. So make sure you choose the specific lanes that you want to gank. Go for red KAYN when the enemy team has more tanks and where you can sustain more heavily in team fights and have a lot more peeling tools to keep your teammates alive. Go blue if you personally want to have a ton of fun and just wreck their squishy targets, as you can assassinate and slip out before they can even see it coming. During the early jungle phase, do your best to avoid the enemy jungler and run away with E if you ever get into an engagement, because you really aren't that strong until you get your transformation. Gank lanes for stacks and flash advantages, but avoid over chasing and dying in a 50-50 because falling behind on this champion can really make it hard to come back. However, once you transform, pull out the dubstep and start smashing your opponents by jumping all over the place and putting it in your montage. First up on our mid laners, we have Twisted Fate. This champion is really good if you want to work on your macro play.
Don't mind if I do.
He's a really good pick if you want to learn map movements of the game and bring more awareness to it, since his ultimate teleports him to a selected location. Even though the nerf hurt him a little bit, we recommend picking him up to learn how to play roam champions. If you are first picking him up, his kit may seem a little tricky with having his micro movements while selecting a card, but become a dream once you consistently pull it off. The general idea is to reach level 6 and get the waves pushing. After you push, you will look for which side lane are overextended and ult there to gank with a stun card. It's very easy to get a lot of kills with this strategy because people never really respect TF's ability to roam and gank their lane. Our biggest advice is using movement speed to juke and break enemies' ankles while you're running around the rift. Since your abilities don't have any direct dashes, you'll have to depend on your itemization to move quickly in each situation. During the laning phase, use 2 minion demos on melees and then the rest on the caster minions. Use your red card on the second melee minion when it comes down to the lane, and then Q through it. At this point, you'll have to commit a couple more auto attacks to clear the wave, but then you can immediately roam after.
Silence!
If the enemy team has a lot of magic damage, picking KASSADIN can always prove to be worth it in the end because of his passive magic damage reduction. This champion will always naturally lose lane like KAYN, but if you can get over the early game bump, you will literally be jumping around the rift, assassinating carries before they can even realize it. This pick is very situational, so we don't really recommend blind picking it every single time because you will eventually run into somebody that picks an AD mid laner and make your life extremely complicated. Your objective is to take teleport and sustain the lane with fleet and then corrupting potion until you reach 1100 gold, allowing you to buy catalyst for more early game sustain. During the mid game, start side laning until you reach level 16 power spike and then group for team fights. Charge up your ultimate stacks and then dive into the backline and spam off your abilities along with Zhonya's. It's very common to get pentakills with this champion in the late game, so go ahead and pull out the cam recorder and then get all those YouTube highlights going on as soon as possible. Talon has insane carry potential with his early game damage and roaming abilities.
They won't survive.
If you ever land 2 W procs on somebody, don't be afraid to flash and melee distance Q and auto attack them and instantly delete the enemy mid laner. If the enemy ever disrespects you, you will want to snowball laning phase and run around with double-digit kills, making the enemy team want to forfeit. Even if the mid laner respects you, you can easily push a lane with W and team mat and then roam with your E across the map. As we can all see, it's a lose-lose situation for the enemy team when Talon is picked. just make sure not to pick him when your team composition is all AD, because then your effectiveness drops significantly and everybody just builds armor. Our first ADC on the list is Lucian. The reason why this pick is so strong is because of his early game dueling power and the ability to be flex mid and top lane.
I'll sleep when they're good and dead.
So if you're an ADC main that is auto-filled, you can always whip out Lucian and then play it in all the solo lanes perfectly fine. With the recent buffs to his Q making it longer range as well as the damage buffs, there are so many opportunities during laning phase to harass their minions and give you the health advantage before you go ahead and all in the enemy bot lane. Level 2 cheesing is going to be the bread and butter with this champion, so pair him up with Braum or Thresh and repeatedly get those double kills over and over again. Our biggest advice is to focus heavily on resetting your E at all stages of the game by using your E first in all trades so you can go ahead and getting it refreshed so you can use it again. A big factor is also deciding between a short dash or a long dash, so make sure to adapt in each situation and decide between outputting damage faster or chasing the enemy is more valuable to you at the moment. Sivir is a champion that's been around ever since the start of the game.
You can't tame the desert.
And just like her boomerang, she is always bouncing back. She will always find herself coming back into the meta at random times, but will always be a viable pick in solo queue. Her wave clear, especially if ever paired with static shift, can't be matched, even by Anivia, because she can clear a wave instantly and then rotate to another lane, potentially selling out games for a very long time, or just taking all the CS on the map. During team fights, with your boomerang flying around applying crits to everybody, don't be surprised when the enemy team evaporates all of a sudden. And if this wasn't enough to sell you on how strong this pick is, she even has an ultimate that can dictate the pace of the game by engaging and forcing favorable team fights around objectives, or by disengaging. The build and rune page we included with Sivir this time is a spicy one, so make sure you try that out in solo queue since the static shift procs Ravenous Hunter and then gives you a lot more sustain than you'd think. Conceptually, this is also why it works really well with Yasuo in the mid lane when you buy Static Shift. Static Shift also helps kill melee minions a lot faster, making rotations and wave clear a lot better and not even an issue, especially when dealing with multiple oncoming waves. So look to pick up the Battle Mistress if you ever want to control your games and win out on those late game team fights. Just make sure that you're really good at positioning with her because she does not have a dash. Our last ADC will be Tristana.
Where's the action?
If I was asked what Tristana's weakness was, I wouldn't really have an answer, because she has early lane kill pressure with her explosive charge, jump, and then press the attack. She even scales harder than any of the other ADCs because she'll have the highest base auto attack range of a whopping 661, which is 11 more than Caitlyn. We know that we just hyped her up to sound like this indestructible Yordle gunner, but we also have to name the weakness, which is her natural pushing with her E. Similarly to Lucian, you can also flex his pick top and mid. Look to siege towers with your E and attack speed steroid with her Q. It's really easy for you to take early platings and then transition that into item advantages, allowing you to all in your opponents for easy kills. Our first support on the list will be PYKE. The reason that we went with him is his dominant laning phase and the ability to roam and establish vision on his own.
Killing feels like home.
During the laning phase, all you have to do is pressure a lot with your ability to hook so you can control the bushes and bait enemies to ward them and give you that small advantage. If the enemy ever tries to disrespect you, hook them and send them immediately after. In a lot of cases, you'll be getting a free flash, making your next play as easy as 1, 2, 3. Something that you should recognize is how exactly your opponents like to juke when you wind up your hook, because enemies tend to panic when you're winding it up, so look to hold it for a second and then see where the enemy walks. Your biggest threat will be your roams to mid lane, so whenever you are about leaving base or your ADC is resetting, look to roam mid and then get free kills with your teammates and snowball your lead further. During the mid and late game, use your W to establish deep vision without the assistance of your team, then escape with your E by giving you all the information that your team needs to make any upcoming decisions for objectives. Second on our support list we have is VEL'KOZ.
Knowledge through disintegration.
While traditionally VEL'KOZ was designed to be a mid laner, he is still viable mid, but people are playing him as a champion in the support role because he can often poke out the enemy ADC and support very easily during the phase. Abuse this range advantage and secure a health advantage, forcing the enemy bot lane to reset and lose waves while your ADC continues to get further ahead. We're doubling down here on the range factor and making sure that you never ever let any melee champions get in your range. Otherwise you'll be very dead as you cannot escape, especially if your E is down. Our last support is the most staple enchanter outside of Lulu in the bottom lane.
Feet are strange.
NAMI does very well with aggressive lane picks such as Caitlyn and Lucian and can easily solo carry her lanes with her pressure and sustain. You have a lot of fight setup and crowd control for teamfighting to swing fights in your favor. Try to take control of the bushes and then poke out the enemy's support with all of your abilities to stop your opponents from pressuring the lane, allowing you to dominate the enemy ADC. In a way or two, she does have a lot of wave control. Our biggest advice is to time your E with your ADC's auto attack because she still applies a slow and even damages when the auto attack is in the mid-air. That concludes our latest episode of 3 Champions to Main in 10.16. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to join our Discord below where we do tons of coaching and giveaways and community events. Lastly, don't forget to visit our website at ProGuides.com where you can receive coaching from pro players, watch live classes, and improve from courses with pro players. Don't forget to leave a like, comment, and subscribe for more content. Thank you guys so much for watching and good luck on the Rift. Have a wonderful day, stay safe, and stay healthy. Peace.